Hey, hey. Hold on, I'll turn it off. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey. Good? Okay.
Ata Adonai, try again. Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tziva. Excuse me. I'm going to sneak in front of you. Sorry, excuse me. Beginning on page 636 with Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh. Av harachaman v'shov avdecha eretz zonecha yarutz avdecha kimo Page 636.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome again to everyone who is here in person. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online tonight. Tonight, our technology is this prayer book. Should have one right next to you, Mishkan Tefillah. And throughout our service tonight, we will be calling out page numbers. There's Hebrew and transliteration as well as translation. And also, if you turn to the left side of the book, you'll also find poetry and writings. And so we'll be moving along together. We'll be singing a whole lot. But also, feel free to get lost in the words of our tradition, in the words of poetry and writings that these prayers have inspired. So just a week ago, we were preparing for Purim. Many of us were here Friday night in costume, Saturday night in costume. And we are now past Purim and on our way to Passover. Passover, our holiday of liberation, of freedom, of telling the story again and again of our people in Egypt, of God taking us out with a mighty hand, of feeling that sense of liberation, singing on the other side of the sea and feeling our shoulders drop, feeling that true sense of not having to work, to slave away, to be free. And so, including this Shabbat, we have 4 Shabbatot, 4 days of rest leading up to Passover. And in a way, Shabbat is also our holiday of liberation. We can remove ourselves from all the emails that we had to send or receive this week, all of the errands that we had to run, all of the things that take up so much time in our lives. It's our time to liberate ourselves from all of that. And so the invitation tonight, and really for the next 4 weeks leading up to Passover, is to experience that liberation, to feel that freedom, to enjoy delicious food, to really cherish spending time with family and friends, to take a walk in the park as it gets a little warmer, whatever that looks like. Every Shabbat is our holiday of liberation, so that in just about 4 weeks, we will be ready for Passover. We'll be ready to tell that story. We'll be ready to feel that feeling of freedom and of liberation. So this is your invitation. This is your permission to let go of the past week, to ease into that feeling of true liberation. We continue singing together on page 130, L'chun Ranana, beginning of Kabbalat Shabbat.
L'chun Ranana, l'Adonai, Nariah, Litzui Sheinu.
Nikad mafana betora bizmiro narialo yararaira yararaira yararaira
before we greet the Sabbath bride on page 138 with Chadodi. Let's take a moment to let go of anything else from this week that you're carrying with you. Good, bad, or otherwise, going into Shabbat, this day of rest, fresh. Feel your feet on the ground, or your bottom in the chair. Take in a deep breath. Take a few more deep breaths on your own. When you feel like you're ready for Shabbat, you can join in on some Yadalais. Yadadai, 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 lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, Shabbat. top of page 140.
מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנה. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד המקום על משופך. איש בעל לא ידע, וכסיל לא יבין עצות. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Just 1 week ago, as we here at CBE began our Purim celebrations, we also began reading the book of Leviticus. This book is both the shortest in length and contains the most amount of mitzvot, commandments, than any other book in the Torah. And it is also notorious amongst our people for these many, many commandments. Portion after portion about the intricacies of sacrifices, the dread on the faces of B'nai Mitzvah students as they find out that they must speak out loud in front of their family and friends about these burnt sacrifices, or commandments about the sprinkling of blood, or laws around purity and impurity, or about scaly skin disease. And perhaps a similar dread on the faces of clergy and clergy students as they prepare to lead their communities on Shabbat. Last week's portion started us on this path, providing us with the details of the 5 main types of sacrifices that the Israelites must perform. And this week's Torah portion, Tzav, picks up right where last week ended, except these are supplemental instructions meant specifically for Aaron and the priests. We read again and again, Zot HaTorah. This is the teaching, or this is the ritual, the instructions for all the different kinds of sacrifices that the priests must perform on behalf of the people. And our Torah provides that specific procedure for the ritual. For example, this is the ritual of the burnt offering. The burnt offering itself shall remain where it is burned upon the altar all night until morning, while the fire on the altar is kept going on it. The priest shall dress in linen raiment with linen breeches next to his body, and he shall take up the ashes to which the fire has reduced the burnt offering on the altar and place them beside the altar. He shall then take off his vestments and put on other vestments and carry the ashes outside the camp to a pure place. The fire on the altar shall be kept burning, not to go out. Every morning the priest shall feed wood to it, lay out the burnt offering on it, and turn into smoke the fat parts of the offering of well-being. In Torah, the word for sacrifice is korban. The root letters of this word mean to come close or to draw near. So anytime that we're thinking about these sacrifices, all of the specificities of them, it's important to remember that their purpose is to bring the people close to God. And yet, they can still feel pretty foreign to us. As Bible scholar Robert Alter astutely notes, most of the laws are focused on topics that may seem less than urgent to audiences not part of the ancient world in which they were framed, to say the very least. So if these sacrifices that fill the book of Leviticus were framed and understood for this ancient context, how could we think about them in 2024? Well, tonight, I'd like to try and argue that the processes for this sacrificial ritual system draw some parallels to our modern day ritual system of voting. Let me explain. The sacrifices were supposed to be completed at a particular time and under a particular circumstance. Our election system has specified times in which we should vote and includes provisions for when we need to have a special election. The sacrifices required being at the altar, sometimes specifying even which part of the altar. And we all have our assigned polling places, and the voting booth, that's our altar. The sacrifices all have an intention, a particular purpose for making that sacrifice among the variety of options. When we vote, we come in with an intention. Hopefully we've done some research before, choosing a particular candidate that we hope represents us well. And the priests wearing all of their specific garments, well, maybe we don't have an outfit, but we do get a little sticker every time we go to vote. Most importantly, though, both the sacrificial rituals of the Torah and our modern-day voting rituals are systems that allow us to do something, to take action, in order to create a little more wholeness in our community. The second time ever that I was able to vote in a presidential election in this country was 2016. Earlier in the year, I graduated from the University of Kansas, and that fall, I had just moved to the Upper West Side. I remember walking out of my apartment on election day and being thrilled to see so many people in line to vote at the middle school around the corner from me. Like so many of us, that fall had felt incredibly stressful. Watching the debates, following the headlines, trying not to freak out at every poll from 538. Before walking into that voting booth to participate in this modern American ritual, I felt I had done my duty. I had registered in my new city and state, and I'd also texted friends to make sure that they were registered and had a plan to vote. I was incredibly nervous, but I also felt really proud to be able to participate in this ritual, a ritual that in the past had kept so many of my ancestors from participating. And yet, by the next morning, it was clear I had not done enough. We had not done enough to keep a volatile, dangerous candidate from ascending to the presidency. Looking back on 2016, even with all of my intentions, even with my fulfillment of the ritual of voting, one of the most important things that we can do to participate in this society, voting, I still had not done enough. In the Haftarah that usually accompanies this week's Torah portion, Tzav, our reading of the prophets, our Haftarah, the prophet Jeremiah exclaims God's fury toward the people because of the sacrifices that they are making. But God isn't displeased because the Israelites were confused on how to implement the system of sacrifices. God is angry because the people have confused the purpose of the sacrifices. Channeling God's anger, Jeremiah preaches, "Add your burnt offerings to your other sacrifices and eat the meat." In a prophetic style of a major insult, Jeremiah is saying that the people's sacrifices have become so worthless, they might as well just do all the sacrifices together and get them over with. Jeremiah continues, "On the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, I did not speak with them or command them concerning burnt offerings or sacrifice." Now, this isn't saying that God never commanded us to perform sacrifices, because we see that very clearly in last week's portion, in this week's portion, and in many parshiot to come. Rashi, one of our commentators, explains that Jeremiah here is referring back to Exodus, saying that the system of sacrifices came after God freed the Israelites and reestablished their covenant with one another. Essentially, performing the sacrifices alone, without any of the deeper work involved, just isn't enough. As Rabbi Rachel Joseph notes, Jeremiah calls out the people for their empty rituals. He is reminding us that the sacrificial system is not the goal of the covenant, but rather a vehicle through which the people can express their relationship with God. This elaborate system of ritual sacrifice is the culminating act of a larger commitment. Voting, again, one of the most important things that we can do to participate in this society, one of our most important American rituals, voting is the culminating act of a much, much larger commitment to creating a country and world where every person lives with dignity, justice, love, and wholeness. As we continue to get closer and closer to this election in November, what would it look like to heed the words of Jeremiah? For us, all of us here tonight, all of us here in this community, to take seriously the ritual of voting. And for us to see that moment of filling in those tiny bubbles and submitting our ballot, to see that moment as the culmination of months of work to encourage others to vote, to counter misinformation about the election, to advocate for the issues we care most about in our lives. Since January, more than 100 members of CBE have started connecting with various organizations run by members of CBE themselves to start this wholly important work. We are sending postcards to encourage people to vote, signing up to be poll workers, and coming up in just a couple of weeks, on Sunday, April 14th, I'll be driving to Philadelphia with other folks here to knock on doors and to get even more people prepared to vote in this year's election. And more is yet to come. So please, watch your emails, check the website, and let's start fulfilling our commitment, not in November, but right now. After receiving all of these intricate instructions for ritual sacrifice, our ancestors began to be so concerned with the holy act itself, they forgot that it was a culmination of a larger commitment to God and to living out goodness in the world. The words of the prophet Jeremiah shook them out of that position, reminding them of the bigger purpose. For us, voting is a necessary, holy act that has the power to change our country and our world. And when we make our way to the polls this year, may it be the culmination of weeks and months of work, showing our much larger commitment to building the world as it should be. Shabbat Shalom.
We continue with Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. Please rise. Yitgadol v'yitkadash miraba v'amad yivrach yutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael
Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Ul'al Me'amaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yit'aleh V'yithalal Shemei Dekudsha B'richu Le'ela Min Kol Berchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Tamiran Ve'alma V'meru Amen. 146. Baruchu et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Leolam Vahen. Please be seated. Page 148. Baruch Adonai Elohim melech haolam asher. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil bein yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam vaed, Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'arabim. 150. Ahavot olam Beit Yisrael Amcha avta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Alkein Adonai Eloheinu B'shofeinu v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orech yameinu U'vahem neged yomam v'layla Ve'avatecha Al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. 154. Ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha v'techa uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam lehot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liyot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem
58. Micha mocha Baili Madonna Micha mocha Nedai bakodesh Nora Teilo Moshe Miriam Zeli Anu ve'ameru Adonai mo leolam vahem V'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov u'ke'alo mi'ar chazad mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Go Yisrael.
In just a moment, we'll turn to page 160 for Hashkivenu, our prayer for safety and protection. And as we think about this Sukkot Shalom, this canopy of peace, we think about us and our loved ones, and we extend it further to everyone in this city, everyone in this country, and we especially think about our siblings being held captive in Gaza right now. We hope that this Sukkot Shalom is big enough for them too. And we continue to extend and extend so that Palestinians in Gaza are included under that canopy, that people all over the world are experiencing that feeling of peace, that feeling of protection, that feeling of safety. And after Hashkivenu, we'll move into Mishaberach, our prayer for healing. And in that, we'll call to mind people who are on our hearts, who are in need of some kind of healing, whether that be physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. In the midst of our prayer, we'll have the opportunity to share names out loud with our community so that we can take care of one another and support one another. And right now, we turn to page 160 for Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidinu shomreinu lechayim ufros aleinu sukkot shelomecha v'takeneinu b'itza tova milfanecha v'hoshinu l'man shemecha v'akin ba'adenu v'asir me'alenu oyev dever v'cherev ra'ah v'yagon v'harchek mimenu avon v'afesha uv'tzel kenafecha tastirenu ki il shomreinu u'matzilenu ata ושמור צאתנו, ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם. מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. Page 371. Mishebeira avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We pray for the healing for the following people we name.
bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
If you know a CBE member who is ill or who needs support, please be sure to find one of us after services, and we'll make sure the clergy team is in touch with them. And also, while we're in this period of healing and of protection, we are also remembering that on Sunday is Trans Day of Visibility. So we're holding close all of our trans siblings who should be able to live in a world where they're not only visible, but accepted and loved.
In a moment, we'll turn to silent prayer, but first we'll do Vishamru on page 161 or 162. Silent prayer continues on through page 182. Please rise. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam, beini ubein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Service for Birkat Me'in Sheva, Magen Avot. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Konei Shamayim v'Arech. Magen Avot v'Imahot b'dvaro, Mechayei Meitim b'mamaro, Ha'el HaKadosh she'ein kamohu, Hameniach le'amo, B'yom Shabbat kodsho. Ki vam ratza lehaniach lahem, Ki vam ratza lehaniach lahem, Lefanov navod be'yira v'pachad, V'noda lishmo b'chol yom tamid, Ve'on habrachot. Adon Hashalom, V'kadif Shashabat, V'varek Shevi, Hameniach b'chedusha, Le'amedu shnei oneg, Zeichel Lemase Vereishit. We turn to the bottom of page 586 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula leotze bereshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'kor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu kore'im umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malechei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Middle of page 590. Ki hamalchut shel chayim uliol me'atim boch lechavod kakatuv b'toratecha Adonai boch le'olam va'ed oy v'nemar v'haya Adonai v'melech al kol haaretz hayom ha'u yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Please be seated.
Now I'd like to invite up Erica Netzer, member of our community, to give us some announcements tonight.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to CBE. Here at CBE, we have members who themselves or whose families come from all around the world, including Argentina, Brazil, Chile, China, Colombia, Egypt, El Salvador, Ethiopia, Ghana, India, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jamaica, Japan, Kenya, Korea, Mexico, Morocco, the Philippines, South Africa, Syria, Thailand, Uruguay, Vietnam, and many more places closer to Brooklyn, like Alabama, Louisiana, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan, Texas, and even Tampa, Florida. And no matter where we're from or what we look like or what we thought we came here to do today, we are here to do something real together. We are in this moment living the Judaism of our time. We do not have one kind of look, We do not have one kind of name. We come from every race and myriad cultures. You may meet a white Ashkenazi or Sephardi Jew, a black Jew, an Asian Jew, a Latino Jew, an Arab Jew, and no matter what we look like, we might know a lot about Judaism or a little, and we include a lot of people who aren't Jewish. We also have a broad range of perspectives. The only thing you can assume, the only thing you should assume, is that every single person you meet at CBE belongs here exactly as much as you do. I'd like to thank our rabbinic intern, Evan Traylor, and cantorial intern, Leslie Goldberg, for leading us so wonderfully tonight. I'd also like to thank Nate Jaffe, supporting in person, and Gabby Savransky, providing audio and online support. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, Yasher Koach. As we do every time we gather together in prayer, our thoughts turn to those who are no longer physically present with us, but with us forever in our hearts and in our minds. If you are in Shiva, the first week of mourning, I invite you to rise and share the name of the person you're thinking of. If this is Shloshim, the first month of mourning, I invite you to rise. If this is Shana, the first year of mourning, I invite you to rise. And if this is a yard site or a nachla, an anniversary of a loved one's death, I invite you to rise. In solidarity with our mourners, ask us all to rise if we're able. As we remember these members of our community, in the period of Shloshim, Stanley Lewis Alpert, father of Sharon Alpert, father-in-law of Kevin McEwen, and grandfather of Camilla and Jesse. Janet Mann, our member. Kathy Harris, our member, wife of George Harris, and mother of Louise Harris. And on the anniversary of their death, we are remembering Albert Antel, Blanche Stern, Janet Barnett, Fanny Barron, Rika Bender, Thea Braderman, Emmanuel Brandt, Gilbert Brown, Sidney Busis, Ronald Christensen, Hyman Ezrall, Louis Feldricks, Hilda Feldman, Henry Feldschuh, Jenny Fellner, Stanley Fertig, Mina Sachs-Fitchman, Murray Fink, Mary Glassheim, Max Goldfarb, Ada Goldman, Edward Grashow, Carrie Hamburger, Ivor Richard Johnson, Rose Kaufman, David Kite, Arnold Leopold, Paul Levy, Robert Levy, Oscar Lewis, Adolph Meyer, Jack Oppenberg, Judith Parker, Wanda Hershkowitz, Esther Reibstein, Hyman Rosenson, Regina Schiff, Jerowitz, Sophie Shapiro, Leo Shear, Selma Silberman, Harry Smallberg, Abraham Van Ruin, and Barbara Wolf. With all those names in our hearts, we turn to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'almad divrach hiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayed chol beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yeh shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam l'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'elam mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yesh lama Rabba min Shemaya, Bechaim Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom biromav, hu ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world. Together we say, Amen.
Page 631. As sung by the only Reformed synagogue in Guatemala, Adat Yisrael. Ein Eloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu, non como nuestro Dios, non como nuestro Señor, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. It's a tongue twister. Mich Eloheinu, mich Adonenu, mich Emalkeinu, mich Moshienu, quien como nuestro Dios, quien como nuestro Señor, quien como nuestro Rey, quien como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Emalkeinu, no del Moshienu, lo haremos a nuestro Dios, lo haremos a nuestro Señor, lo haremos a nuestro Rey, lo haremos a nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, bendito nuestro Dios, bendito nuestro Señor, bendito nuestro Rey, bendito nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Tú sos nuestro Dios, tú sos nuestro Señor, tú sos nuestro Rey, tú sos nuestro Salvador. Shabbat Shalom.
Please join us in the lobby for Kiddush.